should we? Yeah. Great. Okay, everyone. So we're going to start with the schedule. A couple of tips as we get started. First of all, I'm in the process with Jan and Grant of scheduling meetings with all of our program leads, and I realize this is my error that these meetings are happening a little bit later than they should have. But my goal is to get something on our calendars pretty soon here, so that we can look over the schedules together. But I do have a couple of things that I wanted to provide some guidance on. And again, we'll go over these in more detail because they are specific to each program as well. But the first one is I'll send this out to all of the leads that are doing the schedule for your programs. Is I want to make sure that we're utilizing the cheat sheet, the enrollment best practices that Pam and Carlos provided last year. So they were our enrollment management consultants, you may remember. Pam Deegan, Carlos Lopez, and so they have a page of scheduling best practices in terms of how we as an institution can build a student-centered schedule. And we really want to be a campus that is known for making the scheduling decisions from a data-driven perspective, but most importantly from a student-centered perspective. So the first thing on that is let's not just roll the schedule. So that we use that as a starting place. You know, Jennifer Fuentes sends out the scheduling spreadsheet from last winter and spring intersession, but we don't want to just plug and place, you know, and just do what we've always been doing. We really want to look at, did the times work for students? What was the enrollment like? And what adjustments do we want to make? And again, really be focused on the student perspective. So that would be my first thing, is not just rolling the schedule, but actually look at enrollments. And also the major thing that comes up is conflicts. So are there areas within our programs that we're competing against each other? And do we need to spread out the options a little bit more? In terms of the size of the schedule, we actually want to stay consistent with where we were at last winter and spring. And so really, we shouldn't have an increase in the number of sections. And that's for a couple of reasons. Yes, we are seeing an increase in enrollment, but what we want to do is be nimble with the schedule and add sections as we see the classes fill up and as waitlists start to happen. And we've been really good about this past semester, I would say. We added 2 late start courses in fine arts, in studio arts rather. And so we really want to be nimble with adding classes to the schedule rather than having classes that aren't full and need to be canceled, or running low enrolled and decreasing our efficiency rates. And so again, the size of the schedule should stay consistent with where we were at last year. The other thing is, in terms of the modalities, there's no campus-wide mandate about the percentage of classes that should be in person. So, you know, Dr. Avila, Dr. Fayek, neither are saying X percent of classes need to be in person. It's really a program by program decision, what makes the most sense for the curriculum, for enrollments in our programs. But what I will say is that, as we were talking earlier, students are back. The in-person classes did very well with enrollment. And so we want to be able to give students, meet their needs. And so my expectation is that this schedule for the winter and the spring will see, for our department, a higher percentage of in-person courses. And again, that's, you know, program by program. I know studio arts, you all are already in person. Theater, you're already in person. Music, you're in person. But for the other programs, we do want to make sure that we have a robust offering of in-person sections. And so again, no campus-wide mandate, but the expectation really is for our department that we are continuing to increase the options available in person for students. And then lastly, 2 things. One is I really want us to think strategically about late start courses. So late start courses do very well with enrollments. And so my hope and expectation is that every single one of our programs have at least 1, if not 2, late start options. The late starts for so many reasons, give students a lot of flexibility. And we want to make sure that we have options for them if they don't make it in time for the start of the term classes. So I'm not going to mandate, which classes or late start. That's up to you all. Expertise is the, discipline experts in terms of which curriculum and courses lend themselves to compressed structure. But we really want to make sure that we have late start options. And then lastly, college hour, it is still a thing. We want to make sure the associated students are starting to utilize it a little bit more. And so I want to make sure that we are honoring that. There's no form to fill out. In the past, I know there was a form if we were going to schedule something during college hour and we had to get an exemption. That's not the case. It's pretty much on the honor system that each department is going to try to maintain not scheduling classes during college hour. If you need to, because of whatever reason, then we can discuss that, but there's no official form for that. College hour is Tuesday, Thursday, 12:55 to 1:55. Jumping back just for a second to late start classes, and I know I'm going to need to follow up with the communication program about this in particular to see how this might work. But as much as possible, we want to align the start dates of late start classes to either the 12-week start date or the 8-week start date. Now, the length of the class, we can still have different lengths, meaning they would end perhaps at different times, but at least for the start dates, we want to, as a college, be a little bit more consistent. So it's easier to message to our students, to our counselors. It's easier for the marketing team to market those classes. And that's all my guidance. And again, I'll be following up individually with the program leads about this. And Deborah, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just curious, in the late start class, let's say it was 8 weeks, and you were teaching it in person, how many hours are you talking about being in the classroom?
That's a good question, and it really depends on, well, it depends on a couple things, but the primary thing is the number of units the class is, and especially for studio arts. I mean, art history, I know you're usually 3-unit courses, but for studio arts, it's a little bit trickier because it's a 3-unit class, but there's typically the 2 lecture hours or 4 lab hours, and so it depends on the contact hours needed for the class. What I've seen most common is that either late starts are online or that they're hybrid, especially for the 8-week classes, because to get enough contact hours in person for an 8-week class, you'd have to be meeting a pretty significant chunk of time. So for example, communication does, and they're a really good example of a program that does late starts well. Their late starts are hybrid. So they have a certain percentage of the contact hours in person and the rest of it's online.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions about the schedule?
I have one more thing to add to what Noah has said. The schedule that goes out to the program leads that gets rolled by Jennifer Fuentes, the scheduler, is an Excel spreadsheet. And in past semesters, people have turned in adaptations of that or their own work, or not even a spreadsheet. And this semester, the scheduling office and Dardine have asked for us to use the form that has been offered to us. So we start with that rolled schedule and we stick with the Excel spreadsheet and we work within it. And I am available to work with everyone on that spreadsheet as you build your schedules. Thanks.
Great. The next thing on the agenda is the goal review, which Noah wanted to talk about.
Okay, great. So hold on. So just a couple of quick updates. The first is I actually just sent out right before this meeting. I don't know if folks saw it yet. It's something new I'm going to try out, and it's called Board Bites. So basically, I'm trying to increase the communication within our department and campus, what's happening on campus with our department. So please take a look at that if you haven't already. One of the major things that happened at the board meeting last night was that the board approved hiring a bond consulting service to see about the feasibility of a bond for the fall 24 election. And one of the potential projects would be a performing arts center. So as we probably all remember, we advised Dr. Avila to not move forward with the theater modernization because the budget had ballooned so much and we weren't going to get as much in terms of return on investment. And so we said, hold that money, that 20 million that was allocated for the theater, and let's go out for another bond and include a performing arts center with the new bond, and then that 20 million can be added to it, so we can get a more comprehensive building. So the board did approve bond consulting service last night to start to explore whether this is going to be feasible for us. That was the major thing that happened at the board meeting last night that affects our department. There's some other tidbits in there. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about is the board bites. In the board bites, I also shared this. So this is these are my goals in terms of my work this year. So I want to be really transparent and communicative with our department about what I'm focused on this year. I'm not going to read through everything here. Again, you do have this in your email. I included it. I included this in the first Friday newsletter, a link to it, as well as the board bites this morning. But to give you a sense of where I'm operating from this academic year, I have three main priority areas that I really want to focus on. The first one is building effective communication. So I really want to build on what we already have and make sure that I'm communicating with the division and that there's really opportunities for us to build community with each other and have strong communication so that we can discuss issues that are coming up and there's that we can work collaboratively. The second priority area for me this year is student success and equity. And so there's a couple different activities that I'll be focused on, but some of the main ones are supporting the Guided Pathways launch. And Deborah is our Guided Pathways co-lead for the arts and media student success team. So we'll be working closely together. I'm also going to be really focused on distance education this year and increasing our regular and substantive interaction for our online courses. So if you're an online instructor, this is going to be something I'm going to be reaching out to. This was an accreditation finding the last time the accreditors came, and because accreditation is on the horizon for us again, I want to make sure that it's not a repeat finding for us. And so I really want to be focused on the regular and substantive interaction in our online courses. And then last but not least is I am going to be very focused on employee empowerment and talent development this year. So I really want to be focused on the professional development opportunities that there are, and as much as possible connecting those with funding and having a clear calendar of when these opportunities come up and making sure that I'm doing my best to support the growth, each one of us in terms of whatever our professional development goals are. And along with this employee empowerment, last year, each one of our programs went through the program review process and identified the goals that you all want to work on in each individual programs. And so my role this year is also going to be to support you all in the goals that you've identified is a matter of employee empowerment. So you all have identified what goals you want to work on, and it's my role to help support you to achieve those goals. So those are the goals that I'm going to be focused on this year. And while I have the agenda item for a moment, I just wanted to actually, I think I've spoken to most of the program leads here about this, but I just wanted to reiterate the PIO process. The Public Information Office has a new process this year to streamline their work and their requests from the campus community. Part of the process does include that we need VP approval for events, and that's so that they can better coordinate the event calendar. And so I know that can be a little bit challenging and seemingly bureaucratic, but we're going to do our best to support the PIO team because they get inundated with requests everywhere. And so I talked to our VP, Modi, Dr. Fayak, and I meet with him weekly. And so we have a standing item on our weekly agendas, events for approval. And so what the process will be is for any of your events that you're planning, go ahead and send me an email. I'm going to put it on my agenda with Modi and we'll get it approved. The PIO office is not going to move forward with any of their requests from that form, like any marketing requests or anything like that, until it has VP approval. So those are my three things. Oh,
Noah, whose idea was that?
That is coming from the PIO team.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah. So I recognize it's gonna be kind of an extra layer of, it's an extra layer. I get it. So I'll do my best to support
Uh,
you all. Yeah.
well, First of all, thank you so much for all of your help with getting those requests and stuff. But I just want to mention that I did try to get it on their radar, the PIO office, as soon as I was able to lock down a date. And now it's almost 2 weeks since that since I mentioned it to them, and I still haven't had an approval. I didn't realize that I needed an approval right away, but I just wanted to to let you know and get it on their radar, because I know that they get frustrated if they don't have enough time to promote something.
Yeah, I definitely hear that because it's adding another layer of what we have to do, and then yeah, I get it. Yeah, definitely. So again, I'm gonna do my best to help navigate through this and not slow the process down. Jazz at Gavilan is definitely high on my radar, and I did talk to Modi about it yesterday. So he just has to give his written
Thanks,
approval.
John.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You said every event. Is there a particular type of event? I mean, for example, we have our get-togethers with our students. The class will have activities, or is it things where outside, non-students are coming on campus? So something like Bach the Blues or the theater production, or big events.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's only events that require support from the PIO, from the Public Information Office. So if you're not requiring anything from the PIO team, we don't need to go through the process of the VP approval and submitting a form to the PIO team. So it's only events that require support from them.
So ceramic sale, I would have to or no?
Yeah, well, if you because ceramic sale, I know you all did the flyer, but then we asked them for the campus-wide email about it. And then I know they like to put it on their social media.
Right on.
Wait, campus-wide email, I've always done that myself. Is that something that they now will take care of?
Yeah, because the PIO team's the one that sends out the email, the campus-wide email.
They've never done anything for our event. Anything.
Yeah, so that's something
They
they
haven't
can
even
do.
come to the event, but are we not allowed to send out campus-wide emails about events ourselves?
I don't think we have access to the campus-wide listserv. It's
I
only
did
that,
send it to Kyle, and Kyle sends it out.
yeah. So Kyle and Rosie work together on that. So they're each other's backups for that. But it technically goes through the PIO office, any campus-wide communication.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of this is different. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna meet with Rosie tomorrow, and I will ask some questions. So if you have anything you want me to ask the PIO crew, let me know, because I'm actually meeting her tomorrow morning early. So great. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have now Gav TV News, and we are doing stories on all Gavilan events, both pre and post events. So take Bach the Blues, for example. We can interview David and Maria and anyone else you'd like, and talk about the event, get people excited about it so they do come. Then we show up, film the event, and then we can have news stories afterwards, talking to the performers after they've been on stage, talking to audience members who enjoyed it. So we're going to be, we see ourselves as the substitute for the Rambler, which I loved so much in my day, and I think it's sorely missing, but we want to do this. And our stories are now going to be on the Gavilan homepage. So anyone who clicks on, the Gavilan website, the new stories will be there front and center for all to see. So you're in fine arts, so you'll see me regularly. If you have stories that you want told, let us know. And Jan's journalistic students will guide us, and we'll tell your stories so that you get the publicity that you so deserve.
Are there
Okay.
any questions about the, I know the PIL conversation with kind of a tangent, but I just wanted to see if there's any clarifications or feedback about those 3 priority area goals. The effective communication. Did I share my screen while I was doing this? So effective communication, student success and equity, employee empowerment, talent development. Any feedback or questions, clarifications about those goals for our division this year?
No, I have a question, and it's specific to each of the bullet items within those categories. Will you be expanding on this and giving all of us more detail?
Expanding on these different activities?
Yes.
I will be, yeah. So these, I mean, I didn't want to go into too much narrative here. This is mostly just a high-level one-pager about it. But I will, especially for things like distance education, a lot of the stuff in student success and equity. These are large projects that I'll be focused on this year, and so absolutely there will be more detail as these projects move along.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay, the next item is the 5-year curriculum updates. We had our first curriculum meeting on Monday, and wow, there was a giant list of things going through the curriculum committee, and we didn't begin to get all of them, and the list I think is going to grow. I know that there are a lot of classes. I am guilty. I have a lot of 5-year updates due, so I'm going to be working like crazy. But Jan and I and Noah obviously are here to help if you have any classes that you want updated. We want them to be as clean and as kind of dot our I's and cross our T's before they get to curriculum, so there's no chance of things being sent back. Just for example, yesterday I read a class that was, I think it was the fire department. There was a sentence that wasn't written well, and I just said, hey, that sentence is, can we clean that up? And they talked for a couple of minutes and it sent it back. So now it's going to be delayed a couple of weeks. We'd rather have everything kind of clean and ready so that our curriculum flies through without delays. But
in addition to the curriculum meetings, there are tech review meetings, and that's the first stop before your curriculum lands with first and second readings in the curriculum meeting for approval. And I attend all of those. So that's where, if I know what your curriculum is going through, we can look at them. Every semester, there are changes that come down either from the chancellor's office or internally as to what is expected. There are all sorts of moving parts, and Grant and I try and stay on top of all of those, and I try and catch all of them in curriculum review. Noah attends curriculum review, so that when it moves out from curriculum review, none of your sentences should look like the one that Grant just mentioned from a different area. We work really hard to keep it polished for you, and we're here to help. Thanks, Grant.
sure. Does anyone have any questions about curriculum?
Yes, Grant, do you know, is there any like pressing music classes that need to be turned in? Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to be taught?
I don't think so, but I will ask James to give a list of fine arts classes that are due for their 5-year update. I think Noah checked last semester and there was nothing that was in danger of not being offered. But that's not enough. I mean, just because it, you know, if it's the 5-year update date is pending, you really should get it done right away. So I will get that list, and if there's anything for music or Spanish or, you know, any of the programs, Jan and I will make sure that you get the lists. Okay, cool. Any other questions about curriculum? Okay, let's see. So this is kind of going to be Jan and Cherise still. Cherise, we have Senate. We have a need for a Senate rep, and so I'm hoping the two of you can talk about how fine arts needs to be involved with the Senate.
So currently Jan is our fine arts rep, but Jan hasn't always been able to attend the meetings. And so one of the goals that Senate has set for itself is retention and recruitment of faculty representation on Senate and shared governance committees. So we would really like to make sure that if there's a Senate rep, that that person is able to come to the meetings so that they can vote. Because even though I'm a fine arts faculty, I don't vote. So I only vote if there's a tie, which hasn't happened. So the Senate is really committed to getting more people on board. So what I'm asking is if anyone is willing to serve as our fine arts senator and attend the meetings so that they can vote and share out from the fine arts perspective. And our meetings are the first and third Tuesday of the month from 2:30 to 4:30.
Is it in person?
It's in person.
Thank you.
Well, maybe if you're not available because you teach or you have other commitments, if you could share with your colleagues, we're very much interested in getting people. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to help. Grant?
Yeah, I have a question. I think we are a little ahead of schedule, so I think I can ask. So I was in the curriculum committee meeting on Monday, and both Jan and I work on the curriculum together. We're very much involved. The curriculum committee is following the Senate rules that now the meetings must be in person. And I completely agree with that. I will always be at every single meeting because I'm the voting member. But Jan goes to the tech review meetings, and she does at least as much as I do with curriculum, and she's unable to be there. And I feel like that is hurting our program, our department. And my request is, yes, all voting members must be present, but why can we not have a Zoom so that people like Jan or faculty members who have classes going through the session but can't be there can join on Zoom?
So that's a good question. There's a couple of things. So the first one is that even though we have the technology to do that for our board meetings, the board does not take questions. It's simply for folks to view. And that's in accordance with the Brown Act requirements. The other thing is that we don't have access to that equipment. And what I'm hearing is that there's a real desire for us to have a webinar format for our shared governance meetings. It doesn't mean that there can be participation from that format.
No, so I think I've stated it poorly. Everyone in the room has to be in the room. But so we meet in business, was it 104 or whatever? We all have a computer in front of us. James is up front operating the computer. And what we did last semester was that James would also have it on Zoom, so that those who couldn't attend could hear what was going on and see what was on the screen, what we were. So, anyways, they could listen.
Yeah.
That has gone away. Raylene said that the Senate says that that's not okay, and so we no longer allow Zoom for those two.
So I believe what I said was that it could be a slippery slope in terms of if folks know that there's that Zoom option, that they won't attend the in-person meeting. But if they're going to, if they're a member of that committee, they need to be in person unless there are a set of very specific criteria that's met. So and maybe I need to go back and have a conversation with Raylene about what can and can't be done. So
no, I completely agree that every voting member needs to be at every single meeting. And if I can't make it, I call Jan, and then Jan comes to the meeting. It's a hardship for her because she lives all the way in Santa Cruz and she's not on campus that day. So, but she will do it if I can't be there, but I have to be there at every meeting. But for example, I'm looking at Albert's pretty picture of him playing the guitar. If Albert had a Spanish class going through and he wanted to listen in to answer any questions when we say, okay, wait a minute, why are there, it's 5 units, why are there this many lab hours? Albert can listen in and answer the question, and bam, it gets fixed immediately. But are we going to require Albert to be there in person? Because Albert might not be able to be there, if that makes sense.
I understand. And let me find out what other subcommittees are doing, because the way that I'm understanding this is that the new Brown Act requirements is that you don't have participation over Zoom unless there's specific things met, even if he is just there as a resource. So let me check.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened though, is a lot of people were quickly dialing their phones, calling and talking to the instructor, and it was not as effective as if we could hear their voice on Zoom. It seems, and I understand the purpose of the Brown Act, and I feel like we need to follow it, but I don't think that we need to. I think we're excluding people who might otherwise benefit by being able to listen to what's going on in the curriculum meetings.
No,
And
I understand. I completely hear you. And we're not the only college struggling with this.
and Deborah has her hand up.
Yeah.
She may have some talk.
I don't have any good insight, but I'm just curious as to why you don't require faculty, full-time faculty back on campus. But yet the meetings that are really an important part of our campus are required to be in meetings. You are required to be in person.
So my understanding is that there are, and this is from a meeting I had with Dr. Avila, there are between 3 and 4 full-time faculty who are not teaching a class in person this semester. Other than that, all the full-time faculty is back on campus. But to your larger point, full-time faculty involvement in the shared governance process is something that the Senate is very concerned about. And we had a really wonderful conversation about how to get people more energized in the Senate and our shared governance committees as a whole. And that's one of our goals is to get more involvement.
Yeah, and I think that asking full-time faculty to be at meetings is not the issue. What about part-time instructors who are teaching at a few different colleges?
Yes.
If a part-time instructor is teaching up in San Jose, and then we have our curriculum meeting, how is that person supposed to be involved? Well, Zoom allows them to listen in, and they can't be a voting member. I understand that, but they can be involved. Basically, we're excluding a lot of people by not allowing Zoom.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So
and believe me, this isn't coming from
why no? I just
any
want us
place
to,
other than externally.
yeah. I just think that we need to talk about it, because I think
Yeah.
that trying to follow the rules is in some ways doing more harm than good. So that was all I wanted to say. Sorry I took so long to get us back on schedule. Let's do our reports.
Hang on just a minute, Grant. I had one more question. Do part-time faculty get paid if they serve on the Senate?
No, the only
Okay.
the only part-time faculty paid position on the Senate is a small stipend for the part-time at-large senator.
Okay, thanks.
Noah's eager to get back into the meeting. He left because he does not want to be in the meeting for GCFA. So Sharice, do you want to talk about any GCFA updates or?
So nothing has happened so far this semester. Dana Young, who is the secretary of GCFA, is in Tanzania working on a new library. So she'll be back soon. Rob has said once she comes back, he'll begin to schedule the rep council meetings and the GCFA meetings as well.
Okay.
And they're still working on the contract. There's some formatting issues that they're trying to sort out. So the new contract hasn't been disseminated yet, but they are working on getting it cleaned up in terms of formatting. So
Great. Any questions for Sharice about GCFA? If not, then I'm going to invite Noah back, and Sharice, if you can talk, give us a Senate update, that would be great.
okay. Okay, so the Academic Senate. So we have 3 goals for this year. So one is working with the administration on enrollment management and finalizing our our updated plan. In addition to retention and recruitment of faculty on the Senate and its subcommittees. And what was the other one? I'm sorry. The Shared Governance Handbook. And on Friday, we have a retreat that will be facilitated by Pam Lester, who facilitated our restructuring retreat last year. She's coming back. She's going to work with us on reorganizing our shared governance structure and sort of best practices for updating our shared governance handbook. As you know, the Senate declined to sign off on the shared governance handbook when Dr. Rose was here. We did that because we didn't feel that it accurately represented governance on the campus, and that it didn't accurately represent what faculty thought it should. And so we declined to sign that. It went through shared governance anyway, and it's currently on our website, but it needs to be redone. So that's what we'll be working on Friday. If you are at all interested in attending a full day of shared governance, please let me know, because we're still looking for at least a couple of more faculty members to represent us in that retreat. So breakfast and lunch will be served, and part-time faculty will be paid for their attendance. So that might be an incentive. If you're not available, then maybe you know of a colleague who might be interested. And I know Deborah is going to be there, so thank you, Deborah. As I said earlier, we had a really great conversation about the needs of our committees and revitalizing the Senate on our campus. And I know that there may be some mixed feelings about the Senate, and we would like to change that and to make it a place where faculty feel that they can come and have their concerns heard, and we can be your voice. So I think that is, yes, Max, the retreat is this Friday, the 15th, from 8:30 to 4:30. So if you're interested, please let me know. Let's see, I think that's it. Let's see. Let's see. I think that might be it. But if you're at all interested in attending attending the Senate meeting, we are in Library 170. So you're more than welcome to come and to check us out and see what we do. So I think that concludes my report. Thank you.
By the way, Charisse,
yeah,
the Senate meetings used to be in the Mayock House, and I know it's not condemned, but they're not allowing us inside. Is there any idea if it will ever be updated so that we can use it again? And you know, those of you who know me now, I'm not a drinker, but one of the great things about it is that we used to have dinner and a movie. I would show a foreign film, and then I would, whatever country that was from, we would cook a meal. If we watched an Iranian film, we would have Iranian food. If we had watched a French film, and then we cooked there, and then you could have wine from the country, for example. And there was something about that made, I don't know, the Senate more.
You know, Grant, that's one of the things that we've been talking about is how do we create relationships with each other again? Because we've been separated. First, we were separated because of our previous administration. And then we were separated because of the pandemic. And now we're trying to come back together. But how do we forge those relationships? How do we strengthen them? And so one of the things that we've been talking about is social events, maybe a committee day where faculty come and hear about the different committees that they might be interested in, how they can serve. We're trying to get these ideas together. And so I think that having the Mayock House would be a real benefit to faculty. I don't know how much it would be to fix the issues with the Mayock House, but I can tell you that there are many members of our current board who may not be that interested in fixing and updating our Gavilan campus. So
Wow.
I don't know if they would be willing to do anything with it, quite frankly.
I'll volunteer my time if we need it. I'll tell you what they did in the past. They had the Grimm parties, and faculty loved each other. They had these amazing parties. Senate started it, but they were very, very social, and people will look forward to working with each other because they were all friends and close. And
Yeah.
I wish.
I totally agree with you, Grant, and I wish that we could do that. I know that I have talked to Dr. Avila about that, but I can bring that up again. But again, there's opposition on the board. When you have a board member who doesn't want to go out for a bond because it costs too much for the consultants, and then saying that if a roof collapses, that's what we have insurance for. If you have a board member saying that about our campus, that's a problem.
Yeah. Okay. I agree.
Yeah, but at the flip side, it's just one board member, right? That's why they have 7.
No, actually, there were 3 who opposed. But that was one board member's comment.
Anything else for Sharice for Senate? Thank you so much for both of your reports, Sharice. Curriculum, we had our meeting on Monday, but I've already said that the 5-year updates are coming, and we will ask James to make a list. Jan and I want to help. So let us know when you are working on something. If you want us to read something before you post it, we're glad to do that. Give you lots of feedback. For example, I told you I have lots of classes. I'm going to send my first class to Noah and to Jan and have them tear it apart, find any kind of problems so that I can make sure it's perfect. And then I'm ready to do the next one because I will have gotten their feedback ahead of time. And I go to all the curriculum meetings. So take advantage of our awesome dean, and Jan and I are more than happy to give feedback as well. So,
and just for everybody to know, the schedule for tech review is the alternate Tuesdays, not the same week curriculum meets. So if you are working on curriculum right now and you knew that you had a 5-year update, you've got this week to get it in, for Grant and I to look at it, for the dean to look at it, for it to move forward to curriculum tech review next Tuesday. So there's that window, it's staggered. So tech review will meet next Tuesday, then the following week on Monday, curriculum will have a new list of things to go first for first reading. So it's, if you pace yourself, you can get them all up, like 1 week, every other week, for especially for Grant and the long list that he has. And I want to second that. Yes, we're here to help. Thanks.
Any questions about curriculum? Department chairs, if you could see on the schedule, I gave it 1 minute. We haven't met yet. We're meeting on Monday. I made the agenda. I have no idea what our VP wants us to discuss, but I'll let you know after we have our first meeting. Is there anything that you would like us to discuss at chairs? Well, if you could think of anything, send it my way. I guess I have complete control of the agenda, so I can make sure that we're discussing the issues that you want us to discuss. So the next or the last report is Jan on the budgets.
So I will be sending out to program leads the 23-24 budgets so you can review them. That was something that Noah would have been working on over the summer. And they go through a number of iterations before they get finalized. So the ones that I will be sending out should have already been finalized. If you have any questions at all, let me know.
Anything you want to
Go ahead. Grant, go ahead.
Noah, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, thanks, Jen, for your support on that.
Okay, then the only other thing that I wanted to let you know is that our next 3 meetings, fine arts department meetings, are on the schedule. Last semester, I was asked to spread them out. So today's a Wednesday meeting. In October, we have a Tuesday meeting, October 3rd at 9:30. Then in November, we have a Thursday meeting, November 2nd at 9:30. And then in December, we have a Monday, December 4th, also at 9:30. I know that some of these times are bad for you. You're in class or in transit, and it makes it difficult. That's why I tried to have them on different days. I apologize. I teach all day on Fridays, so I can't do Fridays. I apologize. If you want, please let Jan or Noah or me know what you think might be an ideal time for the entire group. I'm very happy to have a party meeting in a pub or someplace, and we can zoom in for those who don't want to hang out with Albert, because he might bring his guitar. And but anyways, let me know. I tried to mix it up as best I could for this semester, but any comments or questions? Okay, well, that's it. We're done early. Woohoo!
Thanks,
Awesome.
Grant.
Yeah, Grant, thank you so much for doing this and for organizing it. I really appreciate
course.
that.
Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it.
Of course. It was nice seeing all of you. Hopefully I'll see you more in person on campus.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks,
Thank you,
Sharice. Thanks,
Sandra.
Noah.
Thank you,
everybody.
Sarah.
Mhm.